Welcome back to another Innovakids training video for students. This is the student lesson part 2 video. So in part 1 we left you off basically talking about the interactive map, and we talked about the video and the questions itself. One of the things I want to do is show you that once the video completes, then the next button is enabled, so you can answer the question and go to the next question itself. And when you did that, you get another concept that you need to read, and then you hit close. Now it's very important, don't close this until you fully read it and take notes on anything that you think are important, because you can't get to the question and you can't come back to this concept information once you close. So it requires the student to pay attention, to look carefully, to read, to take notes, and then hit close. So Innovakids is designed to develop discipline and structure in learning. Now you'll notice once that's complete, now the image appears and you can see the various different Indian reservations that are there, and you have a question and you have to answer the question based on what you read earlier. So you can go ahead and answer it and hit next. Now, when you hit next, the thing I want to point out is you're going to go on to the next concept. So you're going to have another bit of information that you need to read and take notes on. Very important, read before closing. And then you're going to click close. You're going to notice that it says the last question, the result was not correct. So that last question was wrong, all right? And it doesn't give you the opportunity to go back and retake it. Okay, but when you're completely finished this lesson, it will give you the opportunity to go back and retake the entire lesson, this time reading very carefully, because if you get something wrong, it usually means you didn't read well enough, you didn't read slow enough, or you didn't take notes while reading. So you'll notice that this concept, a map, also appears because this concept is teaching about the Bering Strait. That's the bit of water that's in between Alaska and Russia, and that's called the Bering Strait region if you look at the satellite here. And if you drill on back, you can see that this is Asia over here on the left, and this is the Americas on the right. And students can actually drill all the way down and explore that territory itself. There's also embedded in some of these Google Maps images that they can click on, and they can go to a bigger map in order to explore the territory. So once they're completed, there's a section here saying description, because it says look at the map and try to figure out how many miles there are across the Bering Strait. Now that does require the student to do a little bit of calculation using the legend and go to the larger map. Also, you can see here there's another map of the world here at that time, and there's a question. So the student in the next part is simply going to click, and you're going to notice here that now we're going to talk about nomads and agriculture. And again, you're going to have a nice image of the various Indian tribes that lived in the North American territory, and you're going to start to explore the states itself. And when you come down here, you're going to see there's another question. At any point, a student can log out. So you can close the browser, you can go back to the class, you can work on something else. And what will happen is Innovakids will keep track of where you were on that particular lesson. So you completed 3 of the concepts out of 24, and when you go back in and view lesson and begin lesson again, it'll take you to where you left off. All right. Now you'll also notice at this point that the other lessons are not enabled. You do have to complete this lesson, and if you don't complete it at the end of the week, you also cannot take the exam because it's going to indicate that lessons haven't been completed. Also, if you don't complete the lesson, the homework still is not going to be enabled, because now it doesn't say not active, but it says lesson not done. So the student needs to complete the lesson before they can do the homework or the discussion. Now the last bit is once they complete a lesson and the homework, then they can do a discussion question. And to do that, they come down to the completed lessons and they'll note that there's now a discussion button next to the lesson and there's a 0 in parentheses. That means that they haven't added any discussions. If they add 2 comments, it'll say 2. If they add 1 comment, it'll indicate 1. They also cannot complete the exam until they've completed the discussions as well. Now, the next thing I want to do is kind of take you to some other areas of interest. One is we're going to go back here to the class, and we're going to go into the math class to show you some of the simulators. In this particular class, we're going to come down here and we're going to see that there's various different classes and lessons available in mathematics. And also in mathematics, you'll notice that there is a lesson assigned for today called multiplying integers. Now, in this lesson, I'm going to go ahead to view, and you're going to notice the same thing. We have a video that needs to be watched. There also is an activity using card games, and there is homework that's been assigned directly out of the book, and that's found at the bottom. If you begin the lesson here, you'll see that again you get a concept and you read the concept. You've got a couple rules. Rule number 1, the product of a positive integer and negative integer is a negative integer, and the product of 2 negative integers or 2 positive integers is a positive integer. And if you scroll down here a little bit, you're going to notice that there's a question that needs to be answered, and there's also a simulator that can be used at that point. In this concept, you're going to notice that it says, an example, a married couple rules. An optimistic person, I love life, life is great, meets another optimistic person, I love life too. The butterflies and the birds and everything are just so beautiful. Do you think their relationship might work out? That it might be positive? Well, 2 positives make for a positive marriage. So once you learn the concept, you click close. Now you're going to notice that in this concept, there's more information. So once you learn the concept, you're also going to be given a graph here that needs to be put in their notes. A positive times a positive equals a positive. Negative times a negative equals a positive. So they put that in their notebook, and then they can come down here, and there's actually a simulator that can be used in an activity. So you can do this with the teacher, or there's an activity that actually is listed below it. So use the board to create an example of 4 times 3 using a number line. So they have to actually put points on the number line and stretch them to figure out what the answer of 4 times 3 is. And then another question, how many ways can you do that? How many ways can you use a number line to develop a 4 times 3? Now the next thing you're going to notice is there's actually an interactive game at this point. And you're going to notice that there's a question here again where you can't submit the answer until you complete the game. This game requires you to actually do a 2-digit multiplication problem, and it's going to walk you through each step. So 2 times 3, and it says it right above, is going to be 6. You're going to put that in. Now it's going to be 3 times 5 because you've got to do the 3 times the 5. And again, that's going to be 15. So I'm going to put a 5 here and then a 1 over here. And you'll notice how the windows jump around. Now 2 times 7 is 14, but let's put a 5 in there. You'll notice immediately it tells the student that that last entry was incorrect and makes it 5 in red. So they can click back on it and they can say, no, that's going to be 4. But now we have to carry the 1. So we have to carry it. Now, until they can actually complete this equation, again, they can't answer the question. So once they get it correct, so let's move on here a little bit more, and then they can finish it. Thank you again, and we'll see you in the next video.